Shockwaves spread across the Middle East when Iran announced that it had carried out a devastating strike against Israel's largest naval port, the strategic port city of Haifa. Iranian military officials claimed that precision missiles and long-range strike systems had slammed directly into critical infrastructure at the port, targeting facilities connected to Israel's naval command and logistics network. According to Iranian state media, the attack was not a symbolic warning. It was presented as a calculated military operation designed to strike at the heart of Israel's maritime power in the eastern Mediterranean. Iranian commanders described the operation as a strategic response, claiming that multiple missiles successfully penetrated Israeli defenses and hit key military and logistical targets inside the port complex. Iranian state television reported that the strike damaged naval facilities, fuel depots, and support infrastructure that Israel relies on to sustain its naval operations in the Mediterranean. Military spokesmen quoted by Iranian outlets described the attack as proof that Iran could reach and disrupt some of Israel's most strategically valuable assets, despite layers of sophisticated air defenses. Within minutes, reports began spreading across regional media networks, raising immediate questions about the scale of the damage and the implications for the rapidly escalating confrontation between Israel and Iran. Before we go deeper into what Iran claims happened during the strike on Haifa, how the attack reportedly unfolded, and what Israeli officials are now saying about the damage, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest updates on the most dramatic geopolitical developments happening around the world. According to Iranian officials, the strike against Haifa's naval port was part of a broader coordinated military response carried out by Iran's armed forces in retaliation for what Tehran described as escalating Israeli actions across the region. Iranian military commanders stated that the operation involved the launch of several long-range ballistic missiles and precision-guided strike systems aimed directly at critical infrastructure inside the port area. According to Iranian state television, the missiles were launched from positions inside Iranian territory and traveled hundreds of kilometers before striking targets along Israel's northern coastline. Iranian media outlets reported that the strike specifically targeted facilities connected to Israel's naval command structure, including logistical depots, maintenance docks, and fuel storage facilities used to support Israeli naval vessels operating in the Mediterranean Sea. Statements released by Iranian military spokesmen suggested that the operation was carefully planned to disrupt Israel's ability to sustain naval patrols and operations in the region. Iranian commanders described the strike as a demonstration of what they called Iran's long-range precision strike capability. According to Iranian state television, several missiles successfully penetrated Israeli defensive systems and struck key infrastructure within the port complex. Iranian outlets reported that fires and explosions were visible near sections of the port shortly after the missiles impacted. Iranian officials framed the operation not only as a military action, but also as a strategic message. Military commanders quoted by Iranian media said the strike showed that Israel's critical military and logistical facilities could be reached, despite their distance from Iran and despite Israel's layered missile defense systems. The symbolic significance of Haifa was emphasized repeatedly in Iranian reporting. According to Iranian commentators speaking on state television, striking one of Israel's most important maritime hubs was intended to demonstrate that no strategic location inside Israel was beyond reach if the conflict continued to escalate. Within Iranian media narratives, the strike was portrayed as a turning point, a signal that Iran was prepared to target high-value strategic infrastructure, rather than limiting itself to symbolic responses. The importance of Haifa's naval port cannot be overstated. Located along Israel's northern Mediterranean coastline, the port of Haifa is one of the country's most important maritime hubs. It serves as a major commercial gateway for Israel's economy, but it is also deeply intertwined with the operational infrastructure of the Israeli Navy. The port hosts critical naval facilities, including docking areas for missile boats, logistical support depots, maintenance infrastructure, and command centers that coordinate naval patrols across the eastern Mediterranean. Military analysts note that Haifa plays a key role in supporting Israel's naval presence in the region. From this port, Israeli naval forces conduct surveillance operations, maritime patrols, and security missions designed to protect shipping routes and offshore energy infrastructure. The port is also strategically located near Israel's northern frontier, placing it at the intersection of several sensitive regional flashpoints, including Lebanon and the broader Eastern Mediterranean theater. Because of this strategic position, Haifa has long been viewed as one of Israel's most valuable logistical hubs for sustaining naval operations. Regional analysts speaking to international media have repeatedly pointed out that any serious disruption to Haifa's port infrastructure could complicate Israel's ability to maintain sustained naval operations in the Mediterranean. Military analysts have long warned that Haifa would likely be among the first strategic targets in any large-scale escalation between Israel and Iran, precisely because of its central role in Israel's maritime logistics network. In other words, the strategic value of the location means that even the claim of a strike there immediately attracts global attention. Before we continue with how Israel has responded to these claims and what analysts are saying about what really happened, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the latest updates on the most dramatic geopolitical developments happening around the world. And Israel began to respond. Israeli defense officials confirmed that missiles had been launched toward the northern part of the country during the reported attack. However, their description of the events differed sharply from the Iranian narrative that had already begun circulating across regional media. According to statements released by the Israeli Defense Forces, air defense systems were activated after detecting incoming projectiles approaching Israeli territory. Israeli military spokesman stated that several missiles were intercepted by defensive systems before reaching their intended targets. Officials emphasized that Israel's multi-layered missile defense network had responded quickly to the threat. According to Israeli defense officials, while alerts were triggered across parts of northern Israel, the overall operational status of critical infrastructure in the Haifa port area remained intact. Statements released by Israeli authorities suggested that the port and nearby military installations continued functioning normally following the attack. According to Israeli officials speaking to international media outlet, the military was assessing reports of falling debris from intercepted missiles, but insisted that there had been no catastrophic damage to the port itself. American defense officials monitoring the situation also confirmed that missile launches had occurred during the reported attack. However, according to U.S. defense sources, early assessments indicated that Israeli air defenses had intercepted most of the incoming projectiles. This stark difference between the two narratives immediately sparked debate across the global security community. On one side, Iranian officials were portraying the strike as a successful demonstration of their ability to hit Israel's most important strategic infrastructure. On the other side, Israeli and American officials were insisting that defensive systems had prevented serious damage and that critical facilities remained operational. The gap between those two versions of events quickly became the central question surrounding the strike. Military analysts immediately began assessing what the reported strike could mean for the rapidly evolving confrontation between Israel and Iran. Regional security experts speaking to international media pointed out that attacks on major strategic infrastructure represent a dangerous step up the escalation ladder. Targeting a location like Haifa carries symbolic and operational weight that goes far beyond a limited tactical exchange. According to defense analysts, the significance of the event lies not only in the physical damage that may or may not have occurred, but also in the signal that such a strike sends across the region. If Iran intended to demonstrate its ability to reach Israel's critical infrastructure, analysts say the message alone could alter strategic calculations on both sides. Energy markets and global shipping routes are also watching the situation closely. The Eastern media, Iranian, is home to major shipping lanes and energy infrastructure, including offshore natural gas platforms that play a growing role in regional energy supply. Security analysts warn that further escalation in the area could introduce uncertainty into maritime trade routes and energy markets, something that historically has triggered rapid reactions in global oil prices. Another layer of the story involves the competing narratives themselves. According to geopolitical analysts, both sides have strong incentives to shape the narrative in ways that support their strategic objectives. Iran benefits from projecting the image of successful long-range strikes against Israeli infrastructure, while Israel benefits from emphasizing the effectiveness of its defensive systems and the resilience of its critical facilities. This information battle, analysts say, is often as important as the physical military exchange itself. Meanwhile, diplomatic pressure for de-escalation is already beginning to build. International officials speaking through diplomatic channels have called for restraint, warning that further escalation could quickly draw additional actors into the conflict. For now, two competing truths dominate the story. Iran claims that its missiles struck one of Israel's most important naval ports and inflicted significant damage on strategic infrastructure in Haifa. Israel insists that its air defenses intercepted the incoming projectiles and that the port and surrounding military facilities remain fully operational. Between those two narratives lies a complex reality that analysts are still working to understand. Some experts warn that incidents like this can easily spiral into broader confrontation if either side decides that the balance of deterrence has shifted. Others believe both sides may attempt to contain the escalation while continuing to project strength through carefully controlled military responses. What is clear is that the reported strike on Haifa has already become one of the most dramatic moments in the unfolding confrontation between Israel and Iran. Whether this incident escalates further or whether diplomatic pressure succeeds in calming the situation remains uncertain, but the stakes are enormous, and the consequences of further escalation could ripple far beyond the immediate region. The world watches closely as new information emerges and both sides continue shaping the narrative around what really happened in the skies over Haifa. Stay tuned for further updates as this developing story continues to reshape the geopolitical landscape of the region.